Biohazard 25th anniversary. And this is a pretty awesome image. Released by Capcom last weekend for the Tokyo Game Show online. What's up, guys? Timzster here, and yes, I am going to be talking about Resident Evil, aka Biohazard in Japan, which is prepping up for the release of their latest installment, Resident Evil Village. And of course, next year will be the 25th anniversary of Biohazard Resident Evil. The first game was released in 1996 for the original PlayStation and has been a cult classic and the progenitor of survival horror ever since. So, this installment comes just as we are into October, and I'm going to be celebrating all things Resident Evil. So, let's talk about it. Now, that image you saw earlier was the official 25th anniversary poster of Biohazard, aka Resident Evil. I shall be referring to it as Resident Evil from now on. So, yeah, all of the things you see here are from the latest games that came as a result of the RE engine, starting with Resident Evil 7, which I have right here. This is the Gold Edition. So, if you haven't played this game yet, you definitely should. First person view, but it's a return to the roots of survival horror and what makes Resident Evil suspenseful and not so action packed as games like, let's say, I don't know, Resident Evil 5, which was okay, but I call it survival action as compared to survival horror. And this was only the beginning. After the success of this game when it was released in 2017, they went and released one of the best modernizations of a classic title in Resident Evil 2 Remake, January 2019. So, it's a la Resident Evil 4, over the shoulder perspective, a little bit of action, but it blends in with the survival horror aspect that made the classic games beloved. And I really enjoyed this title, although it's still divided as to which one a Resident Evil fan prefers. Is it the original Resident Evil 2? Or is it this? I'm actually still an OG Resident Evil 2 fan. Without this, you wouldn't have this. But this was pretty good. I can't say the same for Resident Evil 3, which came out in April of this year. I mean, it was fine. But unlike the original, which had branching paths and alternate endings, this one is just a one-way trip. So action-packed, straightforward stuff. Nemesis is even scripted as compared to the original Resident Evil 3, where he'd just appear in random times. So there was more bang for your buck back in 1999 when Resident Evil 3 Nemesis or Biohazard 3 Last Escape was released. And recently, a couple of days ago, September 28, 29, 30, that's the time fans around the world celebrate what is called the Raccoon City Incident Days. So Resident Evil 3 Nemesis began in the wee early morning of September 28, 1998. As Jill narrates, September 28, daylight. The monsters have overtaken the city. Somehow, I'm still alive. But she doesn't go like that in the remake. Then September 29 was the time that Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield meet and embark on their fateful journey to Raccoon City during the events of Resident Evil 2. And then they escape, but Jill's adventure extends all the way to October 1st, when Raccoon City was blown to hell to sterilize the virus, leading to the other subsequent events of the Resident Evil timeline, namely the fall of Umbrella, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine embarking on a crusade to destroy it, and Claire Redfield finding her brother Chris during the events of Code Veronica. I replayed the game recently again for the PlayStation 4. I gotta say, it was a trip down memory lane. I love the Resident Evil games. In fact, I even got these, the NECA figures. These are pretty hard to find nowadays. And if you were a fan of the Resident Evil series back in the mid to late 2000s, you'd see these action figures at your favorite hobby shops or game stores. Overall, I'd say I am pretty excited for the future of Resident Evil, even though I am bewildered by the events of the village. The trailers have teased that Ethan Winters is gonna be embarking on a quest for vengeance. I don't know what Chris Redfield has done to him and his wife Mia. Apparently, she was taken out of the picture. And it's in a mysterious village, as the title implies. And we're gonna be seeing European landscapes and a castle amidst a snowy setting. And Chris Redfield, my God, from the heroic protagonist of Resident Evil 1, Code Veronica, Resident Evil 5, and making a cameo appearance at the end of Resident Evil 7, rescuing Ethan and Mia, or Zoe, depending on what your choices were. Now he goes full Wesker? I don't know. And I've cosplayed Chris. I'm a fan of the character. More so than Leon. I mean, I'm a fan of Leon also, but OG is Chris Redfield. And I don't know what the mystery there is. Is there a twist? Did something corrupt him? Or was he just tired of everything that's happened to him since he had to deal with everything as a STARS member, as a BSAA member, and then in the events of Resident Evil 6, which, by the way, celebrates its 8th anniversary. It came out in 2012. We're now at October 3, and it came out around this time around the world. Very divisive entry in the series, Resident Evil 6. But at least it was course corrected. We had Resident Evil 7, we had the Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3 remake, and who knows what the future holds for Resident Evil. Overall, I'd recommend these. I'd still recommend people to play these games, the remakes and Resident Evil 7, if you haven't yet. These are cool games. And as the poster shows, we're gonna have a big celebration for the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil on March next year. And I hope whatever announcements Capcom has for the franchise, I am very much looking forward to it. Please, 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 please release the classic Resident Evil games again in their original PlayStation form. Maybe, I don't know, for Nintendo Switch. Deadly Silence again for Nintendo Switch. That was a portable redo of Resident Evil 1 for the Nintendo DS. And now that we have a Switch, anything's possible. Portable Resident Evil gaming. They re-released Resident Evil 1 remake and Resident Evil 0 for that. Resident Evil Origins. And Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 as the Resident Evil triple pack. Now you can take Resident Evil on the go. And I love it. I mean, I have my Nintendo Switch here. And I just love playing Resident Evil on the go. Last year I went to Europe. And I've just been reliving my RE nostalgia, playing it whenever I'm not touring or visiting other places. And I do miss it. I mean, now that we're in this time of pandemic where we have to stay home and stay safe, and ironically, it kind of reminds me of the storylines of Resident Evil where there are viral outbreaks and you just gotta be careful. We gotta fight it in our own way. Always wear a mask. Always wear a mask. Never take things for granted. Stay safe. And hopefully, come March next year, it will be safer and we can celebrate Resident Evil and its legacy of 25 years together. So, that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And follow me in social media. I'm at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as Timzster. Except for Twitter, it's the Timzster. TheTimzster. And I'll be back doing more reviews, talks about this, video games, or whatnot. I also got Daymare 1998, which was a tribute, or rather a love letter by fans to the Resident Evil franchise. I haven't actually played the game full yet, but I was lucky enough to find it in one of my local game stores. It's the last work of the late, great Paul Haddad. As you know, Paul Haddad voiced the original Leon S. Kennedy. He passed away early this year. It's still hard to talk about it, but at least we know that his last completed acting voice work for a video game is out in Daymare 1998, which originally came out for the PC and then eventually released for consoles, which is why I got it for the PS4. I almost forgot to talk about this. They also showcased, or actually it appeared before their Capcom panel presentation in Tokyo Game Show, Resident Evil, or rather Biohazard Infinite Darkness, a new Netflix animated series coming in 2021. So this is the first time we're going to be getting Leon and Claire reuniting again since Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Degeneration. So it's in that style, those animated movies. There were 3. Resident Evil Degeneration, Resident Evil Damnation, and Resident Evil Vendetta. Vendetta is actually on Netflix if you want to watch it. But this animated series will be the 3rd time Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield will be reuniting. And it just hits that anniversary timeline where we're going to be celebrating all things Resident Evil next year when the 25th anniversary celebration begins. So hopefully this comes out around that time. I can't wait. So thanks guys for watching. I'll be seeing you. It's October. It's Halloween season. So stay safe, stay home, and if you can, play Resident Evil. See you guys around.